Hey everybody, welcome to Digital Asset News. My name is Rob. And today, what I want to talk about is sometimes when we are so sure that we are right, maybe in actuality, we are wrong. So I want to take a look at is to go against my thesis, which is I believe that a recession is upon us. I don't know if it's going to be a hard landing or a soft landing, but I've been on the assumption for quite some time. You know that if you've been on the channel, that the recession is here or is coming. And what I'm talking about is it seems like every time that we take a look around us, there is a consensus. And there are people out there that say, you know what, this is a guarantee. This is going to happen. This is definite. And I mean, just look back. I mean, how many people talked about how Bitcoin is going to go to 150K? How many times we hear Ethereum is going to go to 10K? Okay, maybe that was just my price predictions. But we saw how things were a guarantee and it didn't work out like that. So we'll see articles such as this. This is from Zero Hedge, and he says, hey, brace yourself. There's extreme economic turbulence. And the article is well written as usual, and I linked in the description so you can check it out yourself. And when you read these things, you're like, man, this is going to be pretty awful. You know, you got board senior director of economics, Adaman Al-Zildjian, nailed it. His warning that U.S. consumers are planning to do far less spending in the months ahead. Home sales are going down. Home prices have now declined for 6 months in a row. Higher rates are really hurting the auto industry. And also talks about the UK and, of course, in Europe, how the inflation rate is just spiraling out of control. And we're facing a global crisis. For such a long time, central banks and politicians all over the world tried to cheat the system. And now it's time to pay the piper. So those are the type of articles that we're going to get hit with over and over and over again. And I can understand because I look at these things and I'm like, wow, that looks pretty awful. But let's back up. Maybe we're wrong. So there's a great website called Trueflation, truflation.com. I think I'll link in the description as well. And if you take a look at the inflation rate, which is what we're all concerned about here in the States and everywhere else. Well, in the States, we'll say like that. It actually uses Chainlink as an oracle to pull outside data and pull that in through multiple data sources and take a look at what the actual inflation rate is. And when the government came out and said, yeah, we're at like 8-9%, Trueflation was like, no, you're not. You're like we're way above that. And now we're looking at it and it just keeps going down, which looks pretty good. Now, that is just in the US, I must say. In the UK, not looking so hot. I must tell you, I mean, 16% is ridiculous, but I mean, you guys were at 20% and higher. So we're looking at that. We're like, okay, that's looking okay, not too bad. And then there's a couple of economic factors I found on Ben's website. And we're going to go over these different ones. The Chicago Fed National Financial Conditions Index, or the NFCI. We're going to take a look at the smooth recession probabilities, SAM, Rural Recession Indicator, and the RGDP recession indicator as well. And when I took a look at this, I'm like, okay, well, these, first of all, recessions, they always call them retrospectively. So they're always like, okay, we're into this recession and the recession started 4 or 5 months ago. So when you take a look at these indicators, like for this one, Chicago Fed, it's not all about right now. So what is this? It's a good question. The Chicago Fed National Financial Conditions Index is a measure of overall financial conditions in the U.S. economy. It's a weighted average of 105 measures of financial activity. It's widely used by economists, policymakers, and financial market participants to gain insight into the state of the U.S. economy. Recessions occurred many times whenever the NFCI was above zero. Positive values indicate financially tough times. And you can see in this gray area, I mean, it looks awful, quite awful. And you can see that it's just peaking here. NFCI 3.92. This is in the 70s. It's peaked out of 4.72. Again, positive numbers are bad. Negative numbers are good. I like colors and simple things because I'm a simpleton. 3.43. You can see here it's above here in the positives. The positives, 2008 financial crisis, positive 2.61. Where are we? Well, if we take a real look here, this was when the coronavirus happened. I'm sure you've heard of it. And there was a small recession per se. Well, GDP, 2 quarters of economic growth were decreased, and it peaked. Now we're looking at negative numbers. And again, positive numbers, bad. Negative numbers, good. And we can see that it's gone up, but it hasn't really done much. And then now we're trailing back down. And that's just one. So now if we take a look at the smooth recession probabilities, what's this? Well, this is interesting. Model applying to 4 monthly coincident variables: non-farm payroll employment, index of industrial production, real personal income excluding transfer payments, real manufacturing and trade sales. Recessions are usually determined retrospectively, obviously. And it states the SAM rule and RGDP recession indicators can give a head start in the speculation that a recession has already started while not officially declared. So we'll get into those in a second. But the smooth recession probability, where are we? Well, again, we're down here to not too much. And we're actually declining. Has that happened before? It has happened before, but usually we see something like this. There's a little bit of a blip, and then it just starts to take off like a rocket, and then we're in recession. Same thing over here in 2000. Nothing really happened. Doesn't decrease. Actually, just keep them up. Same thing over here, 1989. Little flat line action, and then straight off to the moon, and so on and so forth. Actually, this one is interesting. In 1980, it did actually go up a little bit, and then a little reduction, then bam, it came off. So you could make the case for that over here. But as it talked about, the SAM rule and RGDP recession indicator, those would be a little bit forward-looking. So those two, the SAM rule recession, it's based on the idea that changes in the unemployment rate can be used to identify the onset of a recession. If the 3-month moving average of the unemployment rate increases by 0.5 percentage points or more above its low for the previous year, it's considered a recession signal. And again, you can see this happens over and over again. And that's a big indicator for unemployment. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I don't know what you want to call it, our unemployment numbers are not going up. And again, what happens here? We see it come here, hits the recession, takes off. We see over here, a little bit of a blip up, little decrease, then it takes off. Here in 2008, there was no reduction whatsoever. Just kind of came here and kept climbing, then recession. And of course, over here, we had a massive number because people were unemployed because of the coronavirus. And now what do we have here? It's the same thing again. It's like it drops off, it increases, everybody's panicking, and then it goes down again. So that's forward looking. And the last one, our GDP, gross domestic product taken out for inflation. What is this? It's based on the idea that the annualized rate of change in the RGDP can be used to identify the onset of recession. Model assigns a probability between 0% and 100%, depending on if the current quarter's growth is indicative of a recession or not. Values rise above 67%, then it has historically been a reliable indicator that the economy is in a recession, threshold has been passed, and it falls below 33%. It means that the recession is over. So all you got to know is this. When the value goes above 67%, it's been a pretty good bet that we've entered into a recession. Where are we? Well, you can see over here, again, we seem to just take off like a rocket ship. Here we are, 45%, and then, off it goes. Then nothing, then a big increase, 10%, and then 77%. Then over here, nothing too much. It goes down a little bit, but we're still like 39, 80, geez Louise, 40%, and then it just takes off. This one was close, 29%, 25%. Over here in 1980s, it's the same thing over and over again. I don't want to keep going over this. But 26% here, drops off a little bit, 27, 38, and off it goes. And now here we are over here. We seem to keep going down again. Now, just like in 2008, where it went up, and then it just reduced, and it was like, okay, it's okay. And then it started to peak again, 27%, 38, and then it takes off. It could happen here. But I got to tell you, right now, in this point in time, and I can't predict anything, and nobody can. And whoever says they can is full of it. I can't predict a recession or not, but I will say this. we are heavily undervalued here in the crypto market. So I have to be honest with everybody, which is this. I feel like we should go through a recession because I feel like we're due for a recession. And if we get this recession and it helps to wipe out inflation, I think that's actually a good thing. Unfortunately, people are going to lose their jobs and it's going to suck. I also would like a recession because that would affect the crypto market and it would go down. I'm being honest. I've been dollar cost averaging for quite some time. If we start to see a reduction in prices, that's great because I still think we got 2 years. And what I'm talking about is if we're just taking a look at the value itself. This is the crypto market cap and trend line. And you can just see that this red line here is the fair market value. And one thing you'll notice is that we're rarely on it. We're rarely on a fair market value, but it gives us to see where things are going. And we can see that a lot of times, actually for quite some time, we're actually below it. And when does it happen? Well, it happens in the time when I would say it's a good time to accumulate for me. I don't know what you want to do, not financial advice. But you can just see right here, it takes like 2 years. So like in 2011, topped off and then came back down. Now we're below the fair market value line in November 2011. 2013, it goes above it. That's about 2 years. Same thing over here. 2015, it goes below the fair market value line. How long did it take to get above it? About 2 years. 2017. Then we come over here. Oh, sweet times. 2018, November. It falls below the fair market value line. Now it did go above it for a small amount of time. A little blip here. Actually a good amount of time. A couple months, 3 months, 4 months. But what did it do? It goes right back down. Fooled you. So from 2018 to what? 2020. Okay, it's about 2 more years. That's 2 years. It always seems like it's 2 years. And here we are again. When did it go below? 2022. So let me do some quick math. It's 2024. So if a recession comes, great. Because I think that's a great time for accumulation. Not great times for people in their jobs, I'm sorry. But again, great times for those of us, you probably watching this video, to potentially dollar cost average. And that's the real story. I don't know if it's going to be, but there's some indicators that say like maybe we don't have a recession, which would kind of suck. But that's where we're at. So anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comment section. I just try to give you a different look of things because just to pile on and keep talking and have an echo chamber of like, it's going to be a recession. It's going to be a recession. It gets old and it gets monotonous. Maybe I'm wrong. And that's it. So look, that takes care of that piece. And then just to quickly go over a couple of pieces of information I thought was great. I feel like this is the most bullish news I've seen in quite some time. Kraken and Coinbase want to get into a tussle with the SEC. Essentially, that's what it is. And I got to applaud these guys. That's great. A couple of weeks ago, we put this nice little video out, and I said, someone's lying. It's either Brian Armstrong or it's Gary Gensler. And in that video, I said, this is what we got to do. We're going to get regulation whether we like it or not. And we're going to get clarity because we need it. I know no one likes that when I talk about it, but it's just the truth. And then I said, here's what we got to do. We got to go at the SEC and we need to sue them. And that was it. And now it looks like that's going to happen, potentially. So crypto industry has more appetite to fight, Kraken exec says. So the SEC is after crypto. I think we all know that. Coinbase and Kraken say their operations are sound. I like that. They're saying, look, if you think it's a security, come at me, bro. And we'll settle this in court. We're comfortable that the products we are offering in the U.S. are not securities. Scott Bogus nailed it. Vice President of Global Regulatory Policy at Coinbase. The tokens on Coinbase do not behave like securities, pointing to the lack of dividends and residual interest. But, and this is, I think, the most important thing. I've said this before. But he said, even if all the tokens on Coinbase were ruled securities, Coinbase could make it work. How would we do that? The simple answer is it could be done, meaning we'll make this happen because there's so much money in the space. We're not going to get out of it and miss our piece of the pie. And he says, we're going to make this happen with sensible rules. I think it goes like this. What if it comes down to securities, all Coinbase is going to say, okay, fine, we're selling unregistered securities, whatever. Let's just give us the fine, like you did with EOS. We'll pay the fine. We'll pay the fine like Kraken did. And we'll register with the SEC. And now we're in the game of registered securities. Great. Robinhood did that. They're slinging securities all day long. They're called stocks. So I don't see the problem here. Moving forward, Jonathan Jackham, he's the global head, nailed it. Global head of policy at Kraken agreed. He says, look, disclosures, market integrity, conflict of interest rules, it's not reinventing the wheel. These policies have existed for a long time, but there are nuances and we can get this done. I just find it interesting that now they're like, everybody was so standoffish with the SEC. Now they're coming at them. They're like, well, we can make it happen. This is what they should have done before. But again, this is what I believe. Of course, I don't have, billions of dollars in the line. It's not like you want to go against the SEC just for funsies. It would suck. But I think they're getting to the point of like, okay, we need to do this anyhow. So let's just make this happen so we can thrive. But this is what gets me. And I think this is where it comes from. The decision to settle was a business decision, Jackham said. He goes, and remember that if you don't remember, Kraken, their staking pools got shut down because the SEC said it was a security. Kraken bent the knee and said, we will shut this down and never offer it again, which is what they signed for that document. And they paid a $30 million penalty. What they should have done is like, oh, you think it is? We'll see you in court, Jack. But they said, look, a $30 million penalty is about 3% of our business right now. Due to the settlement terms, we are not able to directly discuss or debate the contents of the settlement. I will say this. It may have been only 3%, but I'm telling you, that revenue that they're going to miss out on staking is substantial. Coinbase put out an investor's letter not too long ago, and they said, look, we're getting 47 to 48% of our revenue from subscription services from Coinbase One, which is like $19.99 a month. I pay for that. A lot of people pay for that. That's almost half of their revenue right now because the trades aren't really happening right now, but people are paying for Coinbase One. The second highest one, or one of the highest ones, staking, 20%. So if you're telling me that it's not a big blow to you to lose 20% of your revenue, and that's false. But again, I'm not the legal counsel, and it's a good thing I'm not because I would probably not do a good job. So there is that piece. And then to finish up, Ethereum developers push back Shanghai upgrade to early April, just so everybody knows this is the upgrade that's going to allow people to unstake and unstake their Ethereum. And, some people might be like, oh, Rob's going to gang up on Ethereum. No, I applaud them. Good job. If you think there was a problem and you say, like, we need a couple more weeks or however long it's going to be to make sure that we're safe, bravo. That's exactly how you should do things. So I have no problems with this. And look, early April, that's close enough to end of March or middle of March when they said it in the original one. So I'm happy with this. And that's it for today. So look, that concludes the news and me rambling on about regulation and blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares about. But that's it. So if you like today's video, thumbs up, consider subscribing. Everything we talk about is time sensitive. Now what we'll do, because it's Sunday, everybody likes this part, let's go into the Q&A. I'll answer all your burning questions the best of my abilities, and we'll go from there and get out of here and do everything else. That's it. All right, everybody. What do we got?